Alright. We are streaming. When we get Ben on voice, I'm going to start our music up and then we'll begin.
Nice. Yeah, we had lots of interesting events, lots of stories to share.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hear me through my headset. That's the most important
Hello,
question.
Mr. Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Well,
What
let's just...
Are we Japanese people? Calling me Mr. Ben instead of Mr. Judd? Mr. Judd to you.
Mr.
Sorry.
Judd.
It's all right.
I will be special and say hello, Mr. Ben Judd. Oh,
There. Ooh. Wow. We're being a little bit too formal. Come on. We're all the same backers. At least I think so.
Alright, I'm gonna get us started. Everybody ready?
Ready.
Let's do it.
Sure.
Welcome, IGA's Army of the Night, to the Bloodstained Community Broadcast. Tonight we have Ben Judd and Angel-Corlux. Angel's from 505, and Ben, as you know, is our returning guest every October. He comes and visits us. He is IGA's agent and works for DDM, and now also has a venture called DanGen. So welcome, guys.
Hello, folks. How many folks are there actually on this?
There are a lot of people, but only talking it's going to be the guests, and we have Brent to help out.
Yep.
That would be me, Brent Taylor, PFI Weird Soul. You've probably seen my name in passing before.
I have, Brent. You're pretty awesome. Thank you for all the support, man.
Yeah, thank you.
So is there any way, I don't know who has the master controls, but is there any way, I envision this like a gigantic prison with so many people muted, unable to like truly tell their feelings. Is there any way that like Mike, you can just flip the lever and then all of a sudden everybody can talk at the same time and just be like, no, and like scream at you. Let all the inmates out, so to speak.
No,
that's a scary thought.
They can't get out. I'm sorry. I would have to individually let everybody out or change the server permissions. But
thanks for joining us, Ben, though. It's really great to have you on. Last time we did a podcast, I think we were up to 130 online users, and now we're actually up to 320. So we were just saying with Mike, this place is getting bigger.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
And you know what the best part about it is? The community's, awesome. You guys aren't like poisonous. You're very friendly to each other. That's super cool. I mean, unless you're, of course, sucking the blood of innocence, then, of course, I assume there is carnage and pain and screams.
Well, we are the Army of the Night, but I think that's a good thing. Right? We fight the night. That's the Belmont way. That's probably Miriam's way, too, then. So, it's been a long time. Every October, so we've had a year since we've last talked to you. And that means it's also your birthday coming up again. That happens in October for you, right? Around the 26th-ish? Is that right?
Oh, you were so close. Missed it by a day, sir.
25th. All right.
That's right. Two months from Christmas.
Well, happy almost birthday.
Well, I've decided that I'm not going to have birthdays anymore. I'll just stay at my age. I mean, my metabolism is slowing down to the point where I don't want to get any older. So I'm just not going to have any birthdays.
That sounds familiar. I think my mom had a few years where she was 39.
Nice. I love being compared to people's mothers. That makes me certainly feel young.
So every year I have to let you know that we haven't forgotten the moonwalking robot cosplay for hitting our goals there way back in the Kickstarter 3 years ago.
I'm sorry, the best part about being my age is conveniently forgetting things. So I don't remember that discussion at all. That doesn't sound like something.
Well, we don't forget. So you have to dress up like a giant moonwalking robot for us. You made a promise.
All right.
We've got to get you out there.
Well,
you
listen.
can cosplay with IGA. When are we going to get to see IGA cosplay? That was also part of our Kickstarter rewards.
Come on, IGA already looks like he's cosplaying. Have you ever seen a Japanese man in a cowboy hat holding a whip? No.
IGA
already.
has transcended all cosplay.
That's true.
He has become the cosplay.
He has become the cosplay, indeed.
Yeah, I guess if we want to cosplay IGA, we just have to wear all black, a cowboy hat, and grab a whip, and we're set.
You have to be really friggin' tall, too.
How tall
and
is
just
IGA?
have like this
like
aura.
6'3" or 4?
He's 6'3" or 4.
He's definitely taller than 6'2", because that's what I am, and he's taller than me.
Yeah, dude's got some power. He's got some height.
Yep.
All right, so it looks like you've launched something called DanGen. How did you get that name?
So I never thought it would be so hard to pronounce, but apparently it is. It's based on Japanese. It's called DanGen. It is a micro publisher. So I had seen that there's lots of really prominent Western content. Dangens and Dragons, I love it. I had seen there's lots of prominent Western content, rather, and I wanted to help out indies in any way I could. I'm already one of the founding members of BitSummit, which is probably the second largest consumer-based gaming event in Japan after Tokyo Game Show. Mm-hmm. And just you look at these independent developers, and they're working their butt off trying to follow the dream. And I can tell you as an agent, the funding really isn't there for a lot of the smaller teams. Say what you will about Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, they really don't fund, which is what, developers need. They need money a lot of times. A lot of these people are doing half jobs or quitting their jobs. And so how do you survive, right? You can only have so much savings. Just seeing them, it made me really want to give more. And while I can't provide them with funding like I wish I could right now, bare minimum I can take off the strain of them localizing games and doing marketing, certainly in the Japanese territory and sometimes in other territories. And already we have 4 key principles, and these principles I think are very much resonating with a lot of the independent developers. One of them is whenever we have a translator work on the game, we pay the highest rate, and we also do profit sharing with the translator. Nobody does that for translators. They're pretty much afterthoughts. They get paid a flat rate, and that's it. But for us, if they're going to translate the game and they're going to make it a part of something that really resonates with that target audience, I want them to share in it. I think that Hollywood does it well by allowing creators to participate in the profit. The game industry still doesn't do that as much as it should. And certainly if I'm going to be attached to something, I want to make sure that we have the highest talent working on it, and they're incredibly motivated, and they know if they help achieve success, they're a part of it. So that's one of the pieces. Another piece is creator collaboration. A lot of these indie games are made by people who, like me, loved particular brands that aren't being made, whether it's a Ghost and Goblins, whether it's Castlevania, whether it's an ActRaiser, who knows. But, the publishers, they're not focused on those IP as much as they should. And I've already seen a ton of disconnect between what I think publishers think is good and what I think the fans really want. And Bloodstained was a perfect example of it, because the Kickstarter happened, and that's what allowed the game to be, of course, made. And publishers didn't think that there was a real interest for it initially. And sure enough, I knew there was as a fan. Exactly. And so I think there's still a lot of that happening. And so these creators want that game. Nobody's giving it to them, so they end up making it themselves. So what we do is we try to find a creator that maybe worked on a similar game, or a creator that worked on a game that inspired them. One of the games we're publishing is Brave Earth Prologue. It's by the guy that created the I Want to Be the Guy game, incredibly hard game, like 10 or so years ago.
Yeah, I know
He's
that
worked
one.
he's worked 7 years of his life to make a game, and it's kind of like a Castlevania-esque game. And so every chance we get to allow IGA to play his game or to collaborate with him, we try to do that. And that, of course, motivates him. It's also something interesting from the PR perspective if you try to sell the game in Japan. Another game we announced at Tokyo Game Show was the TakeOver. And that is kind of like a Streets of Rage type game. So I had Yuza Koshiro, the person that did the music on Revenge of Shinobi, Streets of Rage, and ActRaiser, come in, and he's going to be doing some soundtracks for that game.
That's
so
amazing.
Again, tying in that Japanese talent with the motivated independent Western creators is another area where I think we really present something special that not a lot of other teams can do. We're a family. We only limit ourselves to about 10 games a year. We connect with our creators on Slack every single day. We're talking with them. So they feel like they can reach us no matter what happens. Yeah, awesome. There he is. Super. He's also an incredibly nice guy. I'd probably say both Iga and him are on the top 5 list of best, coolest, kindest Japanese creators I've ever met, even for being so talented. So there you have it. That's the thing.
It sounds like a full-time endeavor, Ben. Are you still doing the DDM stuff?
Absolutely. So the DDM stuff allows me to do some of the bigger stuff. My clients' platinum games from software, DIMPs, etc. I have some smaller clients as well, but basically those are going to be some of the AAA games. And, I want to be a part of making those deals happen as well. But for the DanGen stuff, the way I do it is my business partners there. They're all veterans. They're incredibly talented. So I can pretty much do a couple weekly meetings with them on the business side. But for the rest of actual content acquisition, translation, PR, marketing, etc., I can leave it in their definitely talented hands. And it's an incredibly efficient process.
Awesome.
And while we're on the subject of DanGen and their projects, it just so happens I was talking to Kayan on Twitter about this because I'm a friend of his. I know him from Guilty Gear. We played competitively.
Oh, nice.
I was going to tweet him. My plan was to tweet him because I heard about DanGen and what you guys do. I was going to try to hook him up with you and see if you guys could help him with his game because I've been following it for that 7 years. He even sent me the script at one point, and I knew all about it. And I'm a huge Castlevania 3 fan, and it's very similar in tone and scope of what he's doing. And my plan was to tweet you or get you on Facebook or whatever I could do and say, hey, Ben Judd, DanGen, this is kind of your type of thing. You guys should pick this up. And then I saw the shots from New York Comic Con. From the show, and I saw that he was there at Tokyo Game Show, and I was like, well, there's the logo for DanGen on right above his game. It's already happened, and I was just wow, okay, well that's already been done. I don't have to worry about it, and you guys got him. So thank you for that. I wanted to personally thank you for doing that.
No, man, Kayan is friggin' awesome. It was actually BitSummit that came over, and he had never left the country before. So we had to finagle and convince and manipulate him to get him back to get him to leave the country and come to Japan. He had a great time. There's a quick documentary video up on our DanGen website if you want to check it out. I love that game. The best part was having Iga play it, and Iga read every animation pattern. He's just like, oh, this character does this, and everybody else that would fight the enemy,
wow.
We would wind up and charge them and kill them, or knock them into a pit. And when Iga played it, even the first time, he's like, oh, this enemy winds up and he's going to charge. Okay, now I know what the pattern is, and then he approached it and was able to clear it. And I'm just like, man, he analyzes. He knows. He is truly a designer from his core.
That's really awesome because I can envision Brave Earth Prologue being kind of like the Undertale for Classicvania. I think it could really be an emerging of the classic style for that again, and just really pick up and do awesome. So I'm really looking forward to it. And it's been in the works, like you say, for a long time.
7 or 8 years. So any help we can get with getting the word out. You banging the drum, we definitely appreciate it because it's an awesome game, and Kayan's an awesome dude.
And Gunlord just asks if you could tell us if Brave Earth is being done on Clickteam Fusion. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either. So I'm going to say maybe.
All right, then.
So DanGen includes two people that I'm also a big fan of, thanks to Bloodstained's Kickstarter, and that is Dan Stern and Nyan Ramachandran. How
Nyan. Yep.
Yes. They were doing the precursor to what this show is, the Playism podcast, just for the Kickstarter. That was really cool, and it ending was very disappointing to me. That's actually one of the motivations for me creating this podcast, because I wouldn't get to hear you guys talk about Bloodstained anymore. So how did you stay, in touch with Playism? What are they up to? I know that they are not really involved in Bloodstained anymore, but they sure did help us out during the early days there with the Kickstarter.
Yep. Playism is another micro publisher, and so it's a small enough industry that we talk from time to time. We'll see each other at different shows. One of the things I mentioned at Tokyo Game Show, I got on my soapbox and I said, listen, I've worked with enough indies. Indie developers, they help each other out. They'll, offer tech assistance, or they'll, give somebody, an artist, for a couple weeks to help out, whatever. They're just incredibly collaborative, and it allows them to do some amazing stuff. But on the other hand, micro publishers don't. They're very competitive, and they're not really trying to help each other out. And I guess I see that, that you're in a competitive landscape, so it's natural to do that. But there's enough consumers out there that it doesn't hurt for the publishers as well to collaborate. And so one of the things I said at Tokyo Game Show was that we held an event there that was sponsored by 7 different sponsors, a couple Chinese, some Japanese, a Western one as well. And I was like, listen, micro publishers who don't have millions of dollars to throw into advertising or marketing, in order to be heard, we need to stick together. We need to, pool our resources, and we don't need to compete with each other. That's going to help out our developers the most. So while Playism is a competitor, I don't see them that way. I see them as somebody very happily collaborate with. I'm just very fortunate that Nyan and Dan have moved over to DanGen, because I had a very good working relationship with them. I could tell they're very talented, and they make indie developers feel very comfortable because they know their stuff, they're hardworking, and they're good nerd friends to have.
Yeah. Angel, did you want to add anything on the publisher perspective on that?
No, I mean, everything Ben is saying sounds like gold to me. Congratulations, Ben. That's really amazing, not only from a fan's perspective, but also just from what that means for the industry. Because like you said, there's no real, I want to say, path or ladder for those micro publishers, for those people that really don't have that sort of indie cult following to lean on. So that's really admirable that you're doing that.
Well, thank you very much. We just launched our first game. Who knows? It may blow up in my face. Maybe too nice and not enough cutthroat business techniques. But I'd like to believe if you do well on people, that eventually the karma comes back and good things happen. So I appreciate that.
And I mean, I don't mean to sound, cliche or anything, but feel free to hit me up, and anything we can do to kind of cross promote or give shout outs to your games. I mean, we're always happy to, further that collaborative indie spirit as much as we can.
Awesome. For now, anybody, I have a Twitter account. I pride myself on that, having a Twitter account, although everybody from all the guys at 8.4 to my business partners at DDM are just like, you need to have Twitter. And I'm just like, Facebook's enough social interaction. But I say that at least at DanGen we have a Twitter account. So if anybody wants to follow that, I think there's some cool stuff. We do video podcasts every once in a while. That is DanGen, DANGEN_ENT. And I know the other guys will appreciate it too. We're always listening.
Yep, I already follow you guys.
Yeah, I used to be one of those people, Ben, that had a personal pride almost in not being in social media. But then I started working in games, and all that went the way of the dodo.
Indeed. It's the smart way to do it, I know. And probably there's going to be something in my life that'll pull me in that direction. But for now.
Yeah, it'll be the Bloodstained
right
fans.
Now, DanGen Entertainment. Quite possibly. You guys are passionate and awesome.
Thanks. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what your role is with Bloodstained nowadays, with IGA? Maybe your relationship with ArtPlay, and if you get to interact with Deco?
So, I don't do any direct Deco stuff. And that's because as an agent, it's traditionally more putting out fires. It's creating new opportunities, helping raise money so that those opportunities are there. And I don't try to get directly in between the creative pipeline. Usually creators don't like that when an agent is in the middle. So I leave that up to Iga. Obviously, he's the talented one when it comes to directing and managing the game. But certainly if there's any additional pieces like, hey, I need to find this art house, or hey, I need to find this voice actor, or whatever, any sort of piece that's going to require finding a team or someone to work with, I'll help out there. Obviously, Iga, in running the studio, Bloodstained is his most important priority. But just for those of you that don't know about game development, basically when you're making a game, it's initially you're in the prototype phase and it's a small amount of people. Then you go up to the full production phase and you're creating mass amounts of assets, and that requires like anywhere from 5 to 10 times as many people. And then when you're down to like bug testing phase and just fixing and minor tweaking, then it's like back down to a fifth of the number of people usually. And so you still have a lot of times people that need to be fed. In this case, it wouldn't be ArtPlay because Deco is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But ultimately, sometimes you need another project to ramp into. So a lot of times if I know a game is going to end, I try to see if there's another title that I can help secure, 6 months out from release. And that's usually not anything that's going to get in the way of the game itself that they're focused on, but it just gives them a nice runway that after that main game is finished, they have other options, like do a second game or do a sequel or whatever.
Yeah, and Iga said that if this game is successful, that he was interested in doing at least one more game in this genre. So I'll be looking forward to that. The best part about... Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I was just going to say that's if, of course, we can really make this game successful.
Absolutely. I mean, it's business and it's numbers, and if it's not successful, then there's no business case to justify having a sequel. But at least the good news is that with sequels, you get a lot more out of them because you can reuse some assets, some animations, some sounds, etc. I'm not saying it's going to be the same game, but that's one of the things Iga excels at, is being able to do sequels off of a limited asset set.
Yeah, he had to start from scratch.
I heard a lot of ifs.
Well, I didn't want to promise.
I choose to discard all of them.
I didn't want to promise anyone a Bloodstained 2 unless you want to announce it right now.
Oh no, that's the only if that I'll accept. All the other ifs about if it'll be successful, that's I didn't hear that.
Well, what can we do as the Army of the Night to help make it successful?
Oh no, we are already doing everything we need to do. Trust me.
Buy 1 million copies.
All right. So, Ben, are you aware of Wall-Mac? Do you know what that is?
Wall-Mac?
Yeah, it's like wall meat, only it's macaroni and cheese.
No, I do not know that.
Okay, you haven't heard this story.
I don't think so.
Yeah, Mana and Iga were at E3 in 2016, and he had never had macaroni and cheese. So she introduced him to mac and cheese.
Excuse me.
And there's this...
I remember that, yep.
Yeah, there's this great picture of him just blown away by mac and cheese. So we now have mac and cheese on the forums. Like, there's little cracks in the walls of the forums, and if you click them, it says you found a secret wall mac, and it adds it to your inventory. So now wall mac has been only more and more popular. You can see that it's some of our Discord icons there.
So friggin' cool. This is what makes a proper community awesome, because you guys you go out, you be creative, you do fun things like that, and you actually like extend the culture and the subculture of what this game is, and so that's awesome.
Yeah, so a lot of people are looking forward to maybe finding some macaroni and cheese in the game.
Right,
in a while.
I'll remember that.
Well, no promises, but I like mac and cheese too.
Who doesn't, man?
Those that are lactose intolerant, I guess. I don't know.
Yep, there it is. I remember the hands on the head. What is this rich, creamy delight that no doubt has 2,500 calories?
So, as far as Bloodstained goes, do you? Well, actually, I think Angel, you mentioned something about this, but someone was asking earlier about having the English and the Japanese voices as an option, as an audio option when you play the game. So if you're an American player, can you turn on the Japanese voices?
Yeah, it's actually been confirmed different places, but I'll be happy to do it again here. Excuse me. It's Japanese, English, choose whichever one you like.
All right. Are those the only two where you can choose the audio, or is everything else going to be text based?
Yeah, everything else is text based.
Okay. So for extra modes, all of the extra modes that were in the Kickstarter, is that anything that we have more perspective on now? A lot of people are asking about classic mode in particular.
You mean, like, do we have any details to release or announce about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right now. So it's something that we've been kind of hinting at during New York Comic Con, which we were just at, because a lot of the people that came to play the demo, it was kind of a mixed bag, because a lot of people either aren't that great at games or literally had never played a game before in their life and thought it was the hardest thing ever.
Wow.
Other people were diehard fans and hardcore, egomaniacs, and they were like, "Come on, bro, throw it at me. What's this difficulty?" And we definitely let people know, like, relax. There's going to be different difficulties. There's going to be nightmare mode. There's going to be classic mode. But right now, we're not talking about it as far as the details are concerned, because everyone sort of assumes things, and that's the best I'll say for now, because like they assume it just means, hey, XYZ monster is going to have more HP, or I don't know, you'll take more damage, or this or that. And since there's a few surprises and let's say things that maybe you're not used to seeing when the difficulty changes, I can't really talk about now the actual details for those modes.
Okay. I'm instead of getting like very specifics, I'm just wondering how things like multiplayer is going to work. Because co-op is in the game, right? That was defined during the Kickstarter. But
oh yeah,
right. Is that something that you've kind of seen in action behind the scenes? Are those modes being focused on, or is that all being saved until after the main game is done? Because we don't really know exactly where the production is at this point.
Sure. So it's not being what's the word, shown to me yet, as far as like, hey, this is the build, try it out and everything. But it is being worked on. It's all sort of progressing with the main development of the game. And as far as like the co-op specifically, I will take the opportunity to clarify that people won't be like running through the entire game in co-op, if you know what I mean. There'll be certain ways that they can cooperate in the game, and then there'll be certain modes where they can play together.
Okay. PC Tracks over there on Twitch is asking, will the game have some sort of speedrun mode? And maybe what features can help speedrunners?
If we did, it would definitely be something we'd want to announce and show off.
All right. If we get another demo or something released, I would love to see features like that already in there, because just the last demo that we had from E3 2016, we enjoyed speedrunning that. There was a lot of competition for that. It's pretty cool. Someone got an art book from making the record on that.
Yeah.
So I have to jump in.
Go ahead.
I have to jump in and save you from all these questions, because I know you're gonna. Because Mike's already like, does it have this? Does it have that? Does it have this? I know everybody wants to know more details, I'm sure, but you know, whenever you launch a project, I can certainly say as an ex-producer, you don't want to reveal all the cards right away. It's better to have it pieced out over time at certain strategic times. So without being able to give away a lot, what I'm curious is what was New York Comic Con like? I'd love to hear anybody's feedback. Obviously, you know, at 505, I'm sure people talked about it. Did you hear anything? Did you see anything?
Yeah, Comic Con was, oh my gosh, I mean, it was literally insane. So it was 4 days of nonstop people coming to play the game. We had a total of 16 game stations, and they were constantly filled. There was never a moment where we didn't have every single one of them occupied. And the line itself to come play, it was kind of funny because there were moments where the line was empty and there were moments where it filled up. But the stations themselves were just constantly, all the time, people playing. And then, as everyone is well aware, we had that amazing art by Mana that we were giving away as art prints from 10:30 to 11:30 every morning. And IGA was there to sign it for the fans. Mana, like, got bombarded by requests. Like 90% of the people that got IGA's signature wanted Mana's too. It was literally nuts. I had to personally cap the line every day at 11 o'clock. And even capping it at 11 o'clock, we still ran until like 11:45. And the line to get IGA's signature on this art print, so the booth was literally the second biggest booth on the whole show because it incorporated the Triforce booth and the 505 Bloodstained booth, right? And the line literally wrapped all the way around the entirety of both areas of the booth. And then on Saturday, Saturday, of course, being the craziest day of the 4, it not only wrapped all the way around, but it started. So that's when I said, okay, I need to cap this. And I started literally in person standing there because, you know, some people were, you know, without going into unpleasantness, some people were actually legitimately angry at me and, like, you know, pissed off and you know, asking for my supervisor and everything. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm my supervisor. Tell you.
Man, that sounds amazing. Well, I mean, it sounds like awful, terrible at the same time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy amount of work, but it was an absolutely insane experience, and it was just so much great exposure for Bloodstained because IGA was amazing. IGA and Mana were both amazing. If they weren't there signing and taking pictures, everyone was taking poses, and everyone had like Castlevania games and covers and slipcovers to sign. And then immediately after that, it was literally just enough time to scarf down a sandwich, and then it was media and press interviews all day, every day. It was just nonstop. It was like a machine. It was crazy.
Wow. And, you know, I had no idea Mana was that good of an artist. I saw that art. I had not seen it before. It's one of the best parts about being an agent and Terrible is that, like, you can be attached to a game and have all the secret information, but yet when it starts to be created, you don't sometimes see the cooler shit until after it gets unveiled to the public. But man, that art was awesome. She is super talented.
I can't even begin to describe the amount of feedback that we got for that art. We had so many people that saw the art prints that we were giving out, and they came demanding art prints without even knowing the slightest thing about Bloodstained, Castlevania, video games, anything. They just wanted that art.
Yeah, well, as soon as we saw it on the forums, I was just like, this has to be the art. This has to be the face and the look of Bloodstained for now on. So we got together a poll, and we were trying to get Mana more involved with the promotional art for the game, and not just this game, but any future Bloodstains that may come. Can I say that now, or can we just go ahead and say there's going to be a Bloodstained?
Sure.
There you go. Bloodstained 12.
Right, Bloodstained 12. We still want Mana doing all of the promo art for it. I think that she needs to be more involved. So with that, I set on a quest to really get that poll pumping and everyone voting on it. And it was by far the most successful poll we've ever had on the forums.
Mana is the reverse Rob Liefeld. What you mean? People actually have feet they can balance on?
It was kind of nuts.
I want to say one thing, and that is, I want to do a sub poll to your poll, which is, Mana does all the promo art, so long as she hides macaroni and cheese somewhere in the picture. It has to be hidden
Brilliant.
Pictures. There's some, like, what is it, Walmac? You said there's like a Walmac image somewhere in there.
We've gone next level.
Yeah, I know. Why not? Layers upon layers of Walmac.
Maybe
actually, it's funny that you say that, because something that I don't think anyone has discovered yet in the art, because there's a secret in the art that Mana
What?
Most artists sign their art, as we all know. And Mana has a technique where she actually incorporates her signature into the art. So that's something that's, fun for everyone to kind of take a look and see if they can identify. And if someone already has a signed art print, it'll probably be easier for them to go hunting for it. But if not, as soon as I'm back in the office, I'll probably be posting lots of pictures, and one of them will be Mana's artist signature. So you can all have fun hunting for that in the art.
Sweet. Yeah. I'm already looking at the picture again.
And the hidden Walmart.
Yeah, we'll look for the hidden Walmart too. I'm guessing it's in one of the roses. But yeah, that was amazing. The way the community came together and got that post to 505 yes votes in just a matter of 3 days was just something I've never seen on the forum before. We had a lot of new users, a lot of returning users come in, and all voice how much they love that art and how much they want to see Mana involved from now on.
Definitely. So I want to say something about this, and I'm going to try and curate it as much as possible out of respect for what will have to be IGA's decision, because I can't, say this will happen, because it's such a, integral decision for IGA to be involved with and make on his own and everything. But the poll and the forum poll was absolutely amazing. It wasn't unexpected, because I saw the amazing reaction. I mean, Mana's art really, it just shattered records everywhere. When I posted it on Twitter, I posted it on the Facebook page, all of our social platforms literally broke. I can confirm, without going into actual numbers that I can't talk about, that Mana's art definitely broke all of our records by orders of magnitude. So by that, I mean more than 5 to 7 times as effective as anything that we've put up on our socials. And that's including things like Kickstarter updates, and that's including things like official videos from ArtPlay. I mean, it was crazy. I was looking at the numbers as they came in, and I'm like, what's going on? This has got to be a mistake. So when I was alerted to the thread that was in the forums with the poll and everyone basically demanding Mana to be more involved in the marketing art, I was like, yep, this was, there it is. I was basically expecting it as a matter of time, sort of thing. Personally, I am very, very enthralled by Mana's art. I think she's extremely talented. I think she would make an amazing and absolutely integral addition to the marketing effectiveness of the game and the IP in general. And to further kind of give context to some of the things that I've seen people talk about, I don't think anyone really knows this, but Mana completed that piece in less than 2 weeks, which is kind of insane by any standard for any artist. I gave her the creative brief with multiple kind of guidelines and suggestions, even for possible kind of scenarios for what she could design. And to give you an idea of not only, but also for how in tune she is with the IP and the needs of the brand and marketing and everything, I gave her 3 scenarios. One was Miriam kind of in a damaged pose or damaged state, kind of like how you have that classic anime look of the hero, like down on his luck because he's taken some heavy blows and he's gritting his teeth and he's going to pull through somehow. And that was with Vepar as like the main antagonist. Mm-hmm. Another scenario was with Miriam kind of in like a midair Spider-Man-esque dodging pose with Bloodless, while Bloodless was doing her crazy blood attacks. And then another one was Miriam kind of surrounded by enemies in this sort of like Diablo 3 inspired, I'm not surrounded, they're surrounded sort of thing. And while they were all, feasible ideas and she loved them and everything, she kind of blew me away because she came back and not only was ready with all of the kind of guidelines that I had set forth in the creative brief, but she came up with her own scenario and she's like, I like A through C, but here's option D. And option D was obviously what you see now with the art. And only obviously I couldn't see it, it's creative brief, it's all just conceptual. And even just at the conceptual stage, I'm like, Mana, you're a genius. That's actually perfect. That's 10 times better for the brand, for the marketing perspective, for everything. So she literally pulled through, not only as an artist doing the impossible, doing what other artists would probably look at me and like say, I want 3 times as much to do what you're asking for, but she also pulled through and basically, I don't want to say did my job for me, basically, gave me a new way to look what I was requesting, and I was like, yes, that is yes. Take all my yes, go do it.
And what's great about this to me too is I first found out about Mana's art probably a year and a half ago when we were doing the Donuts campaign, because we all needed to send her the money to her email address to give her money to buy IGA and ArtPlay donuts. And her email address had her personal website as part of the the URL. I was like, I've never heard of this thing before. What is this all about? I wonder if it'll take me to her portfolio or whatever, and I can see her art. Because I heard that she did art back in the day for mobile games and stuff, just as like one-off pieces or whatever. And I did that, and instantly blown away. I had to make a thread, and I was really passionate about this for a month or so. I was really like, it's not fair that she's not doing art professionally for Bloodstained in some way. So for a year and a half now, I've been really like pulling for this somehow, that this could happen eventually. And I'm just really happy that it's coming to be, at least in some capacity now, because as Enkeria is posting now, I saw all this stuff and I was like, it's beautiful, it's unique, it reminds us of Yami Kojima's art, but it's certainly not a carbon copy of any of that. It's her own style. And she had actually a Mana profile picture on her on the forum for a while too, and I think her humility moved her away from that too, and she took on this ArtPlay logo. But a very Igarashi-like humbleness there. She never showed us her art back then. It was me that started that and said, "Wow, everybody check this out." And she never wanted to take the forefront and show us first and foremost that she was an artist. She was just a communications manager. And this all came about just from the strength of her work showing itself eventually in the right time.
Yeah, definitely. When it was really interesting because I basically by accident found out that she's an artist, because when I started working at 505, one of the first things you do is look people up you're working with on LinkedIn, connect, whatever, get their contact info. And on LinkedIn, there was, I think, 1 or 2 pictures of her art. And then I looked her up on DeviantArt and I found her gallery. And just like you were, I was blown away. It was like I accidentally found this amazing, like, Berserk / like Castlevania / colorful fantasy. It was just, I don't describe it. From there, literally the first time I talked to her, I was like, hey, Mana, great to work with you. By the way, I love your art.
Yeah, I like the way that she actually put some personality into Miriam. She has a little bit of a smile to her, and I think that's important for this game to show that Miriam has her own personality. She's not just a carbon copy of Shinoa, and, she has a lot more speaking roles. I'm assuming, since she has a dedicated voice actress, that's going to bring life to this character. So she's not just your default blank slate protagonist.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the things that was highlighted the creative I gave her, because she's really on ground zero, right? She's working with ArtPlay. She knows word for word the script, what kind of personality IGA wants for Miriam to have. And so far, all of the public marketing messages that we had of Miriam were really, really old. It was from like the beginning of the campaign with Inti Creates and everything. So I made sure to say, Mana, this chance to kind of give Miriam a little bit of personality, a little bit of kind of relatability to the players. So knowing what you know about her, feel free to give her the expression that you feel is appropriate. So literally she could have came up and Miriam could have looked like anything. She could have been angry, sad, happy, whatever. And I am very pleased with the final result, because I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but to me it kind of looks like one of those smiles that it's like defiant against all of the evil creatures that are coming to, basically wipe out humanity. And Miriam has this sort of like, the whole encroaching darkness is upon us, but don't worry, I'm gonna take care of you. I'm gonna get us through it, sort of thing. And it's really just amazing how Anna did that.
And some have said that the smile there and how she looks in the picture goes against the concept art and is out of character for Miriam. But I would remind them, and this isn't like widely known, but Mana has actually seen the scenario and the plot for the game, and has actually given IGA feedback on it. So she knows more about the game than possibly anyone except him and ArtPlay themselves. So she knows the plot of the game, and she knows the characters certainly better than any of us do. And of course, back in those days when Natsume-san drew the concept art, the concept of the plot itself was just that as well, a concept. And she actually made a post about this not long ago in the thread, if you'd like to read more about that. But definitely not out of character for Miriam. She's a dynamic character. And IGA said himself that she mentioned this in the post as well, is that it's the most human girl that they've ever made in a game.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It was to me, it was only a natural progression to her to design Miriam the way she wanted to. So I can understand why people might have that impression, and I think that's further proof, without kind of again tipping my hand or lacking respect of IGA's moment to decide what to do. But I think that's further proof of the need for someone like Mana to step in and be available for me to, tap for marketing assets, because people are still referencing old concept art and treating it as if it were current marketing assets for a game that's, coming out next year, when it's a campaign from a long time ago. So that's just one of the many reasons I'm like, hey, maybe maybe this isn't such a bad idea, especially with all this other evidence supporting it's what we should do.
So Ben, I have some dire news for the Goofball Defense Force. It's not looking too optimistic that they can be in the game, since, IGA said that not all of the familiars got voted in. So I don't know if he's going to be in there, but I say that if there's any kind of DLC for Bloodstained, that would be the one that I would absolutely have to buy, is a Goofball familiar.
Well, hey, you're talking to the right guy. Both I have an intimate relationship with IGA, and obviously Roberto is able to talk with the publishing side. That would be nice, but I do know IGA is a very strict morals when it comes to his game content. And, since he did not make the cut, it wouldn't be fair to add him in later, I think, current stance. But we'll see.
I understand.
I certainly would love to see him in there.
I think he'll forever live within the community, though. I'd like to see like a goofball antenna ball and like a hat, and just us come up with different things that we can use goofball in.
Goofball, riding on mac and cheese, surfing on mac and cheese. Who knows? There's lots of, and there's always Bloodstained.
There is something I can say regarding Goofball that I can maybe give people some hope, but I don't want to give people false hope. Although what Ben says is absolutely true, there are some merchandise avenues that I'm looking into for various products for Bloodstained, and one of those avenues would possibly see Goofball make an appearance, not as something, that's the focus of that merchandise item, but let's just say that there's a chance that it can still make an appearance somehow. Let's just say it that way.
Antenna ball confirmed. Okay, probably not. I don't even have an antenna. I got one of those little shark fin things anyway, so I can't.
Honestly, I don't know anyone who has an antenna anymore. I
saw a Jack in the Box one still not too long ago. It looks like it was decaying and ready to die, but it was still there. That forum poll went very well for Mana, and another poll that I've seen a resurgence to has been what copy are you going to get? What platform are you going to get Bloodstained for? And now the Switch has actually surpassed the PS4 in votes, which I thought was pretty stunning.
So that's actually pretty interesting that you mentioned, because I wasn't and still aren't sure or really capable. It's just anecdotal evidence, but literally every single person that came to New York Comic Con to play the game at Bloodstained booth that either wasn't aware of the game, was just not, a big Castlevania fan in the past, and, learned about the game, every single person wanted to know if it was going to be on Switch. I was just blown away. It was like not a single person asked me if it was going to be on PS4 or Xbox or Vita or anything. They just said they assumed it was going to be on PC, and then they asked, is it going to be on Switch? I was kind of getting tired of saying that.
Just have a sign, yes, it'll be on Switch. So, Ben, right. I know that you travel a lot, and you like to take your Vita with you. Has the Switch replaced your Vita?
Absolutely. We are a 3-Switch household. My daughter goes nutballs over Minecraft and Mario Kart. I was playing Golf Story and loving it. Got the Fire Emblem Dynasty Warriors game. Can't wait for Mario. I mean, I love my Switch. It's awesome hardware, so fun, perfect size. So if you asked me, what version I would get, totally would be the Switch. On that Night Chasers game that was also funding, I'm also a backer on. The Switch version is going to take a little bit longer, but I'm like, I don't need the other versions. Just give me the Switch version. So, and myself as an agent, I've seen that on some of our other clients' titles as well, that like the Switch pre-orders totally outnumber the PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox One pre-orders. So makes sense.
Wow. Are you expecting to see any kind of amiibo support for Bloodstained? Or what would you like as a fan to see as amiibo support for Bloodstained, Ben?
I'm Zelda Breath of the Wild, actually the first game that got me into amiibos, and while they're nice, and it can't hurt to have that as a cool option, since that's one of the things that the Switch does that no other hardware does. For me, it's not necessarily I don't envision myself going too far down that rabbit hole with other games.
But you would buy a Bloodstained amiibo, wouldn't you?
I mean, for this game, yes, I would buy them sparingly. But I mean, like I said, I have like 8 or 9 for Breath of the Wild, and I literally used them twice, and that's it. Haven't used them since. So it's just me as a consumer. I mean, trust me, I can see why the core fan base would want them. They are cool, but it's just, for me at my age, it's just not a thing. Yep, that Metroid one is badass.
Yeah, that is pretty sweet.
I think the genius of those amiibos, all kind of criticisms and controversies aside, is that regardless of how you use them, at the end of the day, they have a lot of flexibility in the market, so to speak, because either whether you use them as a collectible or because of whatever functionality they provide in the game, one way or another, it's capturing a lot of people. Even people at my age, at Ben's age, we might not be buying like a dozen amiibos or whatever, or collecting them like some people do, but I've got 3 or 4 of home. Ben, I'm sure, has 1 or 2. So it's definitely one of the smartest things I've seen company do.
Yeah, just the wide exposure of seeing them on the store shelves and people getting to know the game from that and getting like a cheap collectible and then learning about Bloodstained through it. I think it's part of it as well.
And it absolutely did not kill Skyland or Disney Infinity 3. Sorry, what was the question?
I remember that question back when GameTrailers.com, rest in peace, was still around.
Indeed.
So, crossplay happened by accident on a game called Fortnite, to where people were noticing that the usernames looked like they should. Like, PS4 user saw that another player had a space in their name, and they were like, "What? How is that done?" So they actually found that person on Xbox Live and said, "Hey, are we playing this game crossplay right now?" And they found out that they had accidentally just let that happen. And they're like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we fixed it," and they turned it off. But apparently it could be that easy. It's just a simple flip of a switch on a developer's end. Ben, you are more in touch with the industry, especially with PlayStation and stuff over there in Japan. What do you think that the chances are that we'll see more of that happen in the future? Or actually, it just happen in the future when it's not an accident? Do you think that Sony will ever come around?
It's going to have the fans and the consumers are going to have to make such a big stink that Sony can't ignore it anymore. It's 100% possible. Tree knows it. It's merely them trying to close off their brand and potentially consumers from going to other platforms, etc., which is unfortunate. We've seen this, exclusivity happen before. It's a part of the game industry, but still. They're taking a lot of flack for it. I think if it gets to a certain level, then they're eventually going to announce, "We have found the secret switch that allows us to flip, and now we are proud to announce that crossplay is enabled on all platforms. We find this to be for the Sony machine." They're going to have some big PR speech about it. But at the end of the day, it's going to be because there was enough political or enough PR pressure, rather, put on their shoulders that they had no choice but to change. So make your voice heard when it comes to that. That's my my advice.
All right, Army of the Night. Looks like we need to start poking at PlayStation. Because
and it really feels like...
Go ahead, Angel.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I was just saying it really feels like they're kind of limiting themselves, too, when it comes to games that are having a bit of a harder time maintaining strong populations, because there's literally no downside. When you come to the actual practical terms of brand worries or, oh no, players that are going to want to buy another console that's not ours, I can't even imagine why that would be a concern. But the actual reality is, hey, maybe we have this game that has X amount on PS4 and X amount on Xbox One. What if we just let them play, and all of a sudden your online population has this huge boost? So it's really one of those things where I feel like the industry is still stuck in the past.
I'm sure the way they're looking at it is Sony sees it as Microsoft having everything to gain and them not having as much to gain, because it would really benefit the Xbox One users much more than it would the Sony ones. So that's probably why they're holding back, because they know it would help the competition at this point.
Yeah, but
that's possible, yeah.
They're not thinking about their fans. They're not thinking about their consumers. And again, the only way that you can make them recognize how much of a problem that is if you make your voice heard. I think if enough people do that, they'll be forced to change their minds.
And maybe
especially because right now it's in PS4's advantage, let's say, how much they would possibly not have to gain or not. But let's not forget that this gen is not the last gen. Far from it. In fact, it's been already quite a while since this gen has been out. And there may be, in fact, there probably will be a day soon when the Xbox has the opposite numbers on PlayStation, and then all of a sudden Sony will be wishing that they had, acquiesced to crossplay.
Indeed.
It will really help a game's survival online if you can combine the pooled multiplayer. Maybe a compromise where just for the first, 3 months or something, it's exclusive to a console, and then it opens up. Just whatever they think might work, and at least make a step in the right direction there would be nice.
Yeah.
It's, I know it's not going to be a popular term among core gamers, core console gamers, but see a lot of free-to-play. You're going to see more and more of it. You're going to see hybrid models, PUBG, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. That is, $30 buy-in, but then there's tons of back-end microtransactions, whatnot. Every publisher wants to turn their game into games as a service and basically have players play for 5-7 years. So you're going to see more and more of that in the future. A lot of those models, free-to-play, cheap-to-play, etc., rely on 90% or 80% of the gamers not paying or paying less. And so it's all about having a lot of people play your game, even if only a few or less are paying. And that can only happen if you do cross-platform and like everybody can play on all the platforms with one game. And so what it is doing is it's limiting potential growth, business models, and types of games that potentially could be successful by sectioning off a large portion, 30-40% of the core console market, which is a shame because the fans miss out.
Yeah, I just saw a free-to-play game die, and the Ghost in the Shell, the Ghost in the Shell first-person shooter, Alpha, what is it called? I can't remember.
First Strike.
First Strike, yeah. First Assault, actually.
First Assault,
but yeah, you loosened my memory, thank you. Yeah, First Assault just died. I can't believe it, man. Really enjoyed that one. I don't know what didn't work out with their model, or if they just put it into early access too long with the beta and stuff, but it's gone. So
it's actually pretty common for that to happen, and that's part of the reason why I wasn't too satisfied with Mana just doing those mobile games and all that, because they're here today and gone tomorrow, because they're just kind of disposable experiences. It's kind of you play it now and you enjoy it for now, but you're going to get tired of it eventually, because it's only really usually just a battle system, or just you grind to play more, you grind to grind more, and you're going to get tired of it, like, inevitably. But as much as we say we hate on it as core gamers, there's a lot of people dumping money into it. There's those whalers out there that will, use their disposable income entirely, hundreds of dollars at a time, to get the rare pulls from the gacha machine, and that's just what they're all about. Then they just consume by it. It's like gambling. It's a compulsive behavior that really plays on certain personalities, and it's sad, but that's just how it is.
I want to say two things really quickly. One, that is the coolest friggin' cast ever. Holy crap, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I almost want to break my arm just so I can get that cast. No, I don't want to do that. No, just understand, all of you gamers, core gamers, that it's not going to be mobile anymore. That business model, free to play, cheap to play, is now fully ingrained into console games. It's in Destiny, it's in Call of Duty, it's in some of the biggest titles, and every single publisher, this probably includes 505 as well, who's a free-to-play game, is looking for a way to keep their gamers playing a single game for as long as possible, and then just giving them new content as time goes on. And at the end of the day, if you're able to get new content and play more and more and more, it doesn't really matter whether it's called number 2, number 3, or just a continual experience with new stuff coming in all the time. But you will see that over the next 2 to 5 years, a huge amount. You're going to see cheaper games with more microtransactions.
Yeah, definitely. I think the key, at least trying to put on my Nostradamus hat, is going to be seeing which publishers know and appreciate the value of keeping and maintaining your customers' trust and loyalty by implementing a monetization model that isn't overly exploitative and doesn't cut into the fun of the game. Because there's games that do it right out there, like Warframe, and then there's other games and companies out there that will remain nameless that definitely don't do it right.
Absolutely.
So when it came to First Assault, I think that maybe having the open beta to where you could do all the microtransactions to get your guns faster and in different scopes and stuff to customize your weapons and your skins and getting extra character unlocks, all that stuff is what they depended on. But I think also just it being available to people before the game was actually 100% finished may have hurt it when it came to actually launching the game. Do you think that any kind of early access stuff for Bloodstained, can we avoid anything like that, or are we only going to release demos and that's it?
So that's actually something that we are very, very aware of. I talk about that with my direct superiors and other colleagues often about, and we are not going to. And I hope I made this clear as well in the past when I talked about it on the forums. But we don't have any plans to release traditional betas or alphas. So what I mean by that is that while we're definitely still planning on having demos and like game slices for everyone to play, whether that's an earlier one or a later one closer to launch, you're not going to see the entirety of Bloodstained be released in a quote-unquote alpha or beta stage of development, and that's for a very good reason. And the reason being, we've seen games that literally tank, even though they're very well made and well marketed and everything, because they release everything either as early access or review code or some other way, and then they get streamed and it's a certain like experiential game or story focused game, so people don't care about playing it once they've seen everything in the beta or alpha. And although that's not the same with Bloodstained, because obviously there's a very heavy gameplay focus and there's like a lot of awesome gameplay to be enjoyed there's also a huge element to the game that is the story, that is all the secrets, all the little things that you can do and find. So we don't want that to be spoiled, both from the sense of players' enjoyment of not having to worry about coming across the twists and turns and unexpected plot developments while they're online, and we don't want that spoiled, of course, from the business perspective, where people don't maybe care as much about buying the game, at least not right away or when it counts, because why should I? Because I already know. It's like when you see those trailers on YouTube that go for 3 minutes and have the beginning, middle, and end of the movie, and you're like, okay, why should I go watch it now?
Right, and as much as I think that a beta is important for us backers to give IGA feedback on, say, hey, we think your enemy placement could be better on this or that, or hey, we found some bugs, it is going to spoil us on seeing the game early and finding secrets and all of that stuff before. And Ben and I were talking in the past about how easy it is to spoil everything online these days and how it's almost unavoidable. So is the
and I do want to clarify that the demos and the kind of game slices that we'll be planning on releasing, they won't be skimpy, or they won't be kind of like holding everything back, so to speak. So for example, in the first demo, we might release, I don't know, customization options, or the crafting system, or I don't know, maybe some bosses or something. It'll be kind of like a good chunky experience, but it won't be everything in an unfinished state, if you know what I mean. There's a big difference between those sort of considerations.
Okay. All right. Well, we've had a good hour. We can open up to other questions. Did anyone have anything that I missed? Or Ben?
I'm just gonna ask Angel. I know he took several questions to ArtPlay from the previous interview. Were you able to get any answers for those?
Yeah, actually, there's a forum thread where I replied following up on some of those questions, and I think that was when we came back from PAX West. It was like the PAX West sort of action report, if you want to call it that. But some of the main takeaways were things like people were wondering whether you could use the analog stick or the D-pad to move, and that was confirmed. People were worrying about the lighting and things like the bell, LOL, and those were confirmed again to be, works in progress. What else? I'm having a tough time remembering now because it's been a while. But,
what about
if you can point anything out, I'm happy to talk about it.
A few that I remember off the top of my head was like the crystal rose on Miriam's back used to be like a protruding object, and now it's kind of sunk in as a tattoo. Is that a conscious character design change? Do you think about that?
Yeah, so actually, I that the design did change a little bit, and there's a very good reason. I can't satisfyingly show you why, and the reason being, there's a lot of different effects that are going to be in the game, and that's mainly because of all the huge amount of spells and equipment and attachments and all kinds of crazy stuff that you can equip. So they showed it to me, and basically, while it looks cool on its own, it looks amazing on its own, the way it kind of interacted and added to all the other stuff that you're eventually going to either have equipped or be activating, it just sort of confused everything and caused a lot of issues as far as like what you're actually looking at. So yeah, it's one of those things where they said less is more in this case, because otherwise it becomes just a smorgasbord of colors and effects and everything, and it looks like one of those, you know, Chinese MMO cheap games where it's like more effects.
I see. So it kind of just confused the visual aspect and the kind of just the noise you were looking at. Kind of It overlapped the other things you could add to Miriam's character model.
Yeah, because like I said, if you take it on its own, like a screenshot of it, you're like, wow, that's beautiful. But then if you actually start playing the game and it starts interacting with all the other stuff on top of it, it kind of it just was too much.
Yeah, we don't want Miriam to look like a Bandai Namco Tekken 7 customized character with, like, you know, giant signs and visual effects and like comic, you know, text boxes popping out of her every time she does something. We don't want that.
Yeah.
But, so I have a question for Ben. Way back when Mike did the first couple of interviews with Ben, he mentioned he had some projects coming down the pipeline in the next couple of years, like similar to Bloodstained, that we could look forward to and that were going to happen maybe eventually. Are those still coming, or are those been shelved, or what's the status of those?
Unfortunately, it ended up not, because the developer, it's going to be 2 developers, it's going to be so amazing. But one of the developers had to bow out. So it's super unfortunate, because this would have been huge. Would have been so awesome. But alas, I can certainly say the crowdfunding scene is not what it used to be. It's, with the exception of Fig, it's really hard to try and get any sort of momentum behind even big, you know, projects, which I think probably in 2012 or 13 definitely would have been funded.
It's a shame, because you made that sound like a pretty unique game concept, as if it was combining RPG elements with something else, but you couldn't really give us any details.
It would have been awesome. That's all I can say.
Damn it. That sounds like me.
I have done multiple Kickstarter campaigns, but this one was so complex and so intertwined and featured games, and just, it would have been cool.
Well, to turn that into a positive, speaking of RPG mechanics and things like Igavanias and our type of stuff and crowdfunding and 505 games, everybody look at Indivisible. It's pretty much exactly that.
Yeah, it's really unique in the way that it works like a Metroidvania throughout, but then when you get to the battle, it's all RPG. So, yeah, and it looks amazing. I love the way they incorporate the 2D character design onto the 3D backgrounds.
And actually, something amazing about Indivisible that I don't think hasn't really gotten the attention it deserves, just because it's still really early. The actual combat system itself, while it is turn-based, it has a very unique way of managing your party, where you basically control your entire party at once, basically by mapping the players in your party or characters to buttons on the controller. So in the end, it almost feels like you're doing a turn-based fighting style game, which is, it sounds strange, but you have to see it in action to really know what it feels like. And I can tell you from experience, it feels amazing. Like, it's literally something you've never seen before.
So if anyone's ever played Valkyrie Profile before, that's what my screen name is from. That's where they drew the inspiration from for that battle system. And it does feel like a fighting game. But to take it even further, what Indivisible did is everything is still in the main dungeon as you're doing it, so the screen doesn't transition to a battle screen.
Right.
It's all real time. So in Valkyrie Profile, it switched screens like old RPGs did, where you had like a different background because the game had to load like the battle system. But Indivisible is seamless. Like it's like you go from exploring the dungeon to fighting the enemies and then back again to a much deeper Metroidvania progression ability exploration. So yeah, looking forward to it because I'm a big fan of that game.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Highland was asking about individual platforms for the final percentage on backers for who backed which one. Fangamer probably has that kind of data, but I don't think that's probably going to be released publicly unless maybe it's a lot later.
It may be released publicly later. Like, hey, the game's been out for X amount of time, and look at all this cool info about the long road that we took to get here. But I can tell people right now, I have the numbers and I work with them and everything. It's nothing, crazy out of the ordinary. It's pretty much, without going into the actual numbers, it's what I'd expect. So.
Oh, so you know the percentage of people who are backing on the Switch versus PS4?
Yeah, I know all the percentages. I know all. I would just suggest people not read into it expecting some crazy, sexy, scandalous development, because the numbers are all pretty standard for what you would expect.
So hopefully I'm not the only Xbox player, because that's what I'm looking forward to playing on the list.
No, you're not. There's a good, healthy population for all the platforms. I can say that without worrying about revealing anything.
So speaking of that, I'm going to go into some of the questions I recorded throughout the Discord and the Twitch chat, and one of them is related to this topic. Brainiac asked us, will it be a problem for us backers not actually being quote-unquote sales post-release as far as determining the fiscal success of the game? Like, are you factoring in the backers themselves as far as the retail sales, as far as the success, or is that a problem?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously factoring it in and part of the equation, but all the future sales we forecast obviously don't consider the Kickstarter founders and backers, because obviously that would inflate our numbers and then kind of skew the data. And even without considering the Kickstarter backers, the projections are doing just fine. So I would just tell everyone not to worry about Kickstarter numbers kind of tainting the well, so to speak.
Awesome. All right.
Let me add one thing to that, and that is, I mean, at the end of the day, dollars are dollars. And whether that's backer money or not, it's money that's been put into the production that a publisher would have to put in anyways to make a game. So it really shouldn't matter either way.
I guess,
and even anecdotally, whether it's at events or on the socials or whatever, there are a lot of people that are diehard fans of Castlevania or not, but have not backed the game in any way, shape, or form. And I think people underestimate the kind of attitude, which I can relate to, because except for Bloodstained and one or two other projects on the same exact way, there's a very strong prevailing attitude out there with all of the various disappointments and problems, especially that fundraising has had, or crowdfunding games have had, that I'm not going to buy it until it's done, right? Steam Early Access has contributed to that. Kickstarter scandals have contributed to that. So there are a lot of people out there that want us to succeed and want to see a great game out there by Igarashi, but don't want to put down a single dollar until they see the good reviews and the positive expectations of people being met.
And that's smart. I have no problem with that, and I certainly understand, because, as you said, there is some precedent to that, so I can't blame them at all.
Yeah.
Next up, Gunlord. Let's see. He was wondering, well, I don't know if he has as much of one now, but Gunlord is wondering what Ben's role is now with Bloodstained. Is he still working with IGA ArtPlay or Deco? So, what's up, Ben? What are you doing?
I think I kind of answered that one.
Yeah, I've already asked that one.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Next, Sunraiser asked, will the Switch version support the Switch Pro controller or just the Joy-Cons?
I haven't specifically looked into that, but without hopefully breaking any promises, I can say that I would assume that that would be the case. I can't imagine otherwise, but I can add it to my list of things to kind of confirm and look into. And for now, I think it would be safe to say, please assume that it will, because like I said, it's pretty much a no-brainer to me, but I'll definitely look into that.
Right, yeah, it sounds that way to me too. The last thing I hear is from Lesteroth, and he's wondering if we could talk about the music a little bit, or a little bit more about it in general. And
Sure.
Before we get into that too much, there was that bit that came out in an interview about Noisy Croak being involved with helping Michiru Yamane design some of the music. So,
sure.
Could you give us any information on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I already addressed that on the forums for anyone that either is unaware or hearing this for the first time. If you Google or search on the Bloodstained forums, there's quite a lengthy post by me about it. But to make a very long story short, Noisy Croak is kind of to Yamane what Deco is to ArtPlay. They're basically there to fill the gaps and take marching orders from IGA, and create the sort of support for making the soundtrack for the game. And we're actually planning, one of the things I'll tease on the next Kickstarter update, one of the things that we're planning on including and talking about a little bit more in the next Kickstarter update is Noisy Croak's involvement, and kind of addressing that in a more public, official manner, since obviously from the reactions that we got online, we saw the capacity and potential there for any kind of misunderstanding. Fans that were worried that Yamane somehow was diminished or, being let go or something, and none of that was the case, and we definitely don't want any confusion about that. So, yeah.
All right. Crocodile asked, is there an ETA on that last secret that got delayed at NCCC that you teased a while back?
The last secret being basically announcements that I had during the week of New York Comic Con.
Yeah, that's
maybe it was this actual broadcast. Maybe.
No, it wasn't this. So I believe what he's referring to is when I started announcing things for New York Comic Con, and then Mana's Art, which, like I mentioned, kind of blew everything and everyone out of the water. There was a third announcement that I was really hoping to get out there during this past week. It's really, obviously I'm biased, and I think everything we announce is awesome, but still, it's really awesome. It's really great. Unfortunately, I don't have an ETA for you because I'm still in the process of making sure everything is confirmed, so I don't announce something that later I have to go back and say, hey, sorry, but this thing that we announced isn't actually happening anymore. But hopefully, let me see. Today's Monday, right? Yeah, Monday. I can hopefully say that within the next 2.5 weeks, so probably by October 25th or so, that week will probably be the week that I can announce what I was hoping to announce this past week.
Okay, cool. And we're also having people again asking us if the release date is still first half of 2018.
Of course.
And pretty sure it is.
Yeah, so the release date is definitely 2018, and I don't know, did we ever officially say it was the first half specifically?
Yeah. Every time someone asks IGA about the release date for Bloodstained, he always, with confidence, says first half of 2018.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just making sure that I wasn't spoiling something and getting it. But yeah, it's always first half.
We weren't trying to trick you.
No. I've seen it in so many interviews. Yeah.
Okay.
Every time he gets interviews, they ask.
Right. Then yeah. It's always still that first half of 2018, and hasn't changed. It's
Crocodile.
not going to change. If it ever does change, though, you can, count on us to tell you right away and explain why and all that. But literally everything right now is pointing to all of our schedules being met, and I will be the first one to let you know if that changes or why.
So that October 25th time window you mentioned, that's separate from the regular Kickstarter update schedule, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that time window is specifically for that announcement. Don't take that as a Kickstarter update time window or anything like that. That's just specifically for that one cool thing that I hope I can announce before the end of the month.
Right.
So by this time next year, we'll be playing Bloodstained?
Yeah, should be.
Yeah, definitely. No, by this time next year, you'll definitely be.
Ben has been with us on every October. This is his third appearance on the podcast, and he's faithfully shown up for us every time to always touch base and let us know what's going on in his world. It sounds like things are going really good with DanGen, which I've been mispronouncing, just because I thought on Twitter it was named after Dandy Gentleman, but apparently I was wrong on that one. It's based off a Japanese word. But I really appreciate Ben spending all this time with us and faithfully coming to us every single year. Next year, the game will be released. We'll see if we can't get him back.
Yes, thank you, Ben, very much.
Thank you. It's very awesome. You're right. It was based on Dandy Gentleman initially, since also target Japanese audience. DanGen, which means like words of conviction, is the way that we ended up. Again, anybody follow me over there at DanGen_int, and we definitely appreciate any feedback, any geeking out. And I hope next year us to be playing this game together and geeking out about how awesome it is.
Yeah, well, we wish you the best of luck with all the indies that you help out with DanGen and what you continue to do with DDM. So thank you so much for joining us, Ben. I don't know if you expected us to keep you this long, but I really appreciate you coming out. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us?
Nope, just that you guys are the most awesome gaming community I've ever had the pleasure to know, and keep that positively moving forward. Super awesome to see the excitement.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and let you go. And
okay.
Everyone, thank you for joining us and joining Ben here. It's great to see so many people in the Discord chat and on Twitch. It's really cool to see everybody come out. So thanks again, Ben. Thank you as always, Angel. I hope that you'll be part of many more podcasts to come. And I appreciate Brent also fielding questions and adding his flavor here too.
Definitely. It's always a pleasure to be a part of this community. It's always an honor, really, to be in this role and serve you all, serve myself, fan just like anyone else. So, just thank you to everyone, really. Thank you to you too, Mike, for you and the entire moderation team.
Yeah.
Purify everyone.
Also, Enkeria has been posting great pictures and stuff in the Discord chat as we've been talking, so I think he deserves a special shout out. And
oh yeah, definitely.
And Gunlord for also making a backup just in case none of this recorded.
And actually, Enkeria deserves another shout out. Thing that if people see that cool kind of customized Discord Magic Crystal logo that's on some of my stuff, like actually it's on all of our official signatures on the forum.
I didn't know
some
you
other
made
places. Yeah. Actually, literally in a few seconds, I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking of making this little logo. What do you think?" And literally, like 30 seconds later, Enkeria was like, "Here you go."
Nice, man. Yeah, he's amazing. He's made a lot of cool stuff for Mike Tendo, PC Tracks. I know PC Tracks is listening tonight. He's doing great. He's improving his speed runs on Symphony of the Night. But yeah, man, Enkeria is a very helpful guy.
And before everyone heads off to sleep, I'll throw this out there just to kind of teach people who bow out early a lesson. I will give one more tease. I can't say when, but there's a very big, very desired announcement coming very soon. And I say that now because I learned my lesson about saying things are coming soon when they're not, coming soon.
Everyone has a different soon. Soon means different.
Yeah, let's just say that I've limited my soon to a few months at maximum, and this is less than that in this case. So I think everyone can kind of what I'm talking about when I say it's something that everybody wants. And yeah, they should look forward to it, because that's, as much as people want it, that's not even the most exciting thing coming.
Whoa.
All right. The hype train's in full motion.
Well, thank you, Angel. Thank you again, Mike, and Ben as well. We're not going to hear a Ben Judd wolf howl this year to get us in the mood for Halloween. Come on, Ben, you still there?
I am, but I have a beautiful 6-year-old who is sleeping literally right next to me.
Oh, no.
I will probably create nightmares for her. So since she's visiting my my folks, we're going to have to do without an baby one. Oh!
Well, we appreciate the baby howl. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I think that is the perfect cue to go ahead and conclude tonight's podcast. So, thanks again for everyone.
Actually, Mike.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, did bring something to my attention, which I think would be worth mentioning, and I'll just read it since he sent it directly to me. Thanks to our wonderful co-hosts. So he says, can you guys address somehow in the future, because in a way for myself and possibly others, it was a decent selling point and reason to go back over $60. And he or she is talking about the beta no longer happening. And I just want to nip this in the bud. The beta and demos, or whatever you want to call them, they're definitely still happening. I've confirmed on the forums, and I'll confirm here again. There's going to be at least 2 of them. One is probably going to happen before the end of the year, and then another one would definitely, at least at the very minimum, happen before the launch of the game itself. And I don't want anyone thinking that because there isn't a full beta that they're not getting a beta. The beta that we're going to be releasing is just not going to be the entire game in an unfinished state. It's going to be a more kind of focused experience where we hopefully plan to have all of the game features and mechanics and systems in there in just a kind of smaller slice, so people can still give all the feedback they could possibly want to give. They can still experience what the game is going to feel like and be part of the production and development of the game without kind of spoiling all the amazing gameplay features and all the amazing story developments of the game. So hopefully that addresses that. I wanted to throw that in there while we're still here.
All right. Now, I'm sorry, Ben, but we're going to have to end on another mini howl. So, mini howl? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, well, did anyone else have anything to say, anything to plug before they head out? Ben, I know we can.
If you haven't already voted in the poll, you can still vote in the poll.
Yeah, it's still there. I think the message has been well received, but please go ahead.
Oh, I actually locked it. That's my mistake, I guess.
You locked it?
I'm sorry. I'm opening it right now.
Well, you don't have to. I guess it's good, but
I mean, I just thought that 97% out of almost 30% of the entire forum base was pretty, I mean, again, I don't want to use my hand, but I thought that was to kind of get the point across. Please feel free to vote in Operation Art Legacy. That was my bad. I'm sorry. The link is right here in the Discord now.
All right. The legacy lives on then. Okay. Well, Ben, yes, we will follow DanGen on Twitter. Let me. Can someone plug that real quick on in the Discord and Twitch so people can follow that? Actually, I guess I'm the only one that could paste over there on the Twitch, and that would mess it up. But there we go, Enkeria. It is DanGen_ENT on Twitter, so we can keep track of how Ben's doing with those efforts, helping out indies. And we'll see you hopefully next year, October, Ben, if we're not all busy playing Bloodstained.
I believe Ben is gone.
Oh, okay. And he held out.
That's fine. He bowed out. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, he had little kids to put to sleep. That's understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. But now that I don't have to like rush things for Ben, we could just sit here and talk about Mana's art for another 2 hours, or at least until Angel doesn't want to talk. Man. But yeah, that
I can hang out for a little bit.
That Zangetsu, dude. Seriously, Mana Zangetsu looks badass. I have Jeeble as my like forum profile. It's been that way forever, so I can't change it. So I have to choose him as like my ongoing forum profile. But
you should.
I was tempted to switch to that Zangetsu that Mana did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to gush, but oh my gosh. I mean, when I got her work in progress, I was like, wait, there's more? This isn't it? And then I got the final art, and I was just absolute way. I mean, it was crazy. And Zangetsu, his expression, it's like I can feel his rage. Like, I'm not gonna spoil anything story related, but just looking at his face, you can tell that if you're a demon, you're pretty much SOL, and if you're someone that's in his way, you're SOL too.
Yeah, he looks awesome. Shifty, that's in Discord. That's actually Miriam the Bloodstained Orphan. That's a Facebook page, and it happens to be my favorite Facebook page for Bloodstained, aside from our official one, of course. But yeah, lots of good interaction there. You actually met them. They were at NYCC, and
oh, okay.
And I think that he got to go through, or you guys invited him back because I sent you a picture of him, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that guy. So yeah, in the Discord chat, you can see that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he has an extra signed copy of the art that we've been talking about, and he's going to be giving that away to someone on his Facebook page. So I highly recommend everyone, if you want a chance to go see that, or if you just want to see a great Facebook page from a real Bloodstained fanatic, you won't be disappointed by checking it out. So just search on Facebook for Miriam the Bloodstained Orphan, and keep your eyes peeled for a contest.
Yep. And not to undercut his giveaway, but very soon we will be looking to give people chances to get signed copies since they couldn't unfortunately come to New York Comic Con. I made sure to procure some samples, so to speak, and I'll be coordinating with Mike to set up some really cool contests and giveaways and all that stuff, so we can, at least as much as possible, try to get some signed copies to some of our diehard fans.
Yeah, signed copies would be amazing. I'd like one of those myself. Gunlord is saying,
I don't think that's possible. I'm sorry, but
damn it. Is there time to buy into the Bloodstained beta? I know that the Slacker Backer stuff is still open. The beta is part of one of those tiers that are below 500. So will beta codes go out to people?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, people can still get in on the beta if they go in back. I think that's at the $60 tier, or I would have to check, to be honest.
Yeah, it should be the $60 tier. I'm checking right now. Yes. Let's see here.
And that's a fair price.
Yeah.
That's a fair price for a game. especially this game. I think that's a lot of bang for the buck right there.
And speaking of the $60 backer tier, and speaking of the giveaways, not to undercut the giveaway you just mentioned, or to undercut the other giveaway, but on top of that giveaway, I'm doing a giveaway. So on the forum, I've started a thread to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Symphony of the Night, and also to celebrate us breaking 2,000 members on the forum, and that happened very quickly once we made the Mana thread for the poll. And what I'm doing there is, yeah, it broke a lot of things, but what I'm doing there is having people share their experiences with Symphony, and what was special about the game to them, memories they have of it, and how they think that might connect their experience to Bloodstained, and what they're kind of looking for in Bloodstained, and how they relate the two experiences together so far. So just give me your story there, and that actually closes tomorrow, and the winner will get $60 worth of either the backer copy of the game or the equivalent Fangamer t-shirts or franschise stickers and pins, whichever you want. And don't worry about shipping. I'll take care of that. And it's just something I wanted to do to celebrate, because as we all might have noticed, Konami didn't do anything for Symphony's anniversary. So we're going to try to do something here.
It's okay. We did something instead.
Yeah.
We're doing a big something. It's called Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
No, I mean, if you noticed, if you go back and take a look at when Mana's art was announced, you'll notice something interesting.
Yeah, it's the 20th anniversary on the date. We thought that might have just been coincidence, but hey.
Really? Oh, is that what that was?
Mana thought it was coincidence because I brought that up on the forum, and she was like, "Oh, it just worked out that way."
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what happened.
Good job, Angel.
Well, that's very generous of you, Brent. Thank you.
Thank goodness for those coincidences. Whew.
Brent, that's very generous for you running that contest. Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. It's I know it sounds just to say thank you, but it's things like that. It's things like all the cool fan interactions, whether it's giving away actual money value things or creating cool assets or even just talking on Discord and everything. This community, it's like I really feel lucky and blessed to be working for such an amazing community. I know Ben said it, and I'll say it again. I'll mirror it. I mean, I've worked for communities that are less than idyllic, let's say, and to have this community here, even though kind of like early phase of the marketing campaign and everything, I mean, I'm really lucky and hoping and encouraging everyone to keep the interactions up, because there are some really great people here. I've already made a lot of cool friends, and I encourage everyone to, if maybe you're a lurker and you're a little hesitant, jump into the water because it's nice and warm, and the waves aren't too strong, and a lot of nice people here.
Yeah. So Gunlord just passed a question about staggered content. Is that still being looked at? No confirmation yet, I'm assuming.
Well, if this wasn't already said before, I know there was some concern because during some interviews or something, there was discussion about considering staggered content. But I can tell you from, personally, and also working with my producer, his name is Carlos. He's an awesome guy that really knows his stuff. The number one priority that we're harping on is to deliver a full, complete game that's as polished and as excellent as possible, that meets as many expectations as possible. And we are not planning at all to release certain stages or certain bits and pieces of the game at one point and then another just to say that we met our deadline. So that kind of flies in the face of my previous confirmation of the release date, but it's a separate thing because right now everything is on track and confirmed for first half of 2018. But I can also confirm we're not going to be doing staggered content. There may be some minor things that may be pushed to like a month after launch, like I don't know, maybe there's an extra mode that we wanted or something.
Or Goofball
but
DLC.
As far as the for DLC and stuff like that. But as far as the actual game, we want to release a full game that's polished, that's satisfying, that's finished, that that you start and then you finish, and that you don't end up saying to be continued, or oh, okay, it was great, but I can't give it a full review score because we still have to wait XYZ or whatever. So yeah, it's Enkeria saying patch it, patch it, patch it. Yeah, we are not some other publishers that will remain unnamed. We're 505 Games, and we may not be the biggest one out there, but we believe in quality. And I'm sorry if that sounds like a commercial, but that's the way it is. So come what may, we are going to release a full, complete game.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I think the understanding when people were assuming staggered content was just for the modes, like classic mode, roguelike mode, speedrun mode, online challenge mode, XYZ mode. I think that was kind of the understanding, as opposed to game content like the inverted castle being locked behind the staggered content or something.
Oh, okay. Well, as far as that's concerned, I have to kind of circle around and do like an official announcement later on, because all of those things, while they're right now confirmed as part of the game at launch, those things may change depending on how much time is needed by the development team and what just comes up naturally as far as a roadblock in the development, or things that you don't expect you need to address, whether it's bugs or polish or whatnot. So to clarify, I guess the main game is going to come out absolutely, in its entirety. And then there's like a hierarchy, at least speaking from a production standpoint, there's a hierarchy of importance for the extra modes, right? And right now they're all in. And if something should happen, instead of delaying the game, we would say, like, for example, I don't know, let's say classic mode, right? As an example, instead of delaying the game, announcement to everyone, classic mode won't be in the game at launch, and it'll be coming to you 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever after launch. Obviously, that wouldn't be ideal, but we would choose to do that instead of delaying the game. Now, if the necessary development time or things that come up to make the game what it needs to be became to a level where it wasn't acceptable to us, so it was like multiple modes being delayed or whatever, then we would just say flat out, hold on, let's take our time, let's add a month or two or whatever to the release date, and then be sure to have everything in at once and to the quality that it needs to be. So while I can't say that nothing absolutely will be staggered, whether that's an extra mode or whatnot, I can say with confidence, because policy I'm setting with my producer, that everything will be put forward in a way that guarantees quality and satisfaction and the fan reception first. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think what people are mostly against is the episodic model as opposed to what we would normally call staggered. Because when I think of staggered, I think of Shovel Knight, and everyone loved that game and how the content was delivered, because the people that backed for it just received it as it was done. The main game was already finished when they got it, and things were just added on over time. So I think staggered, that word doesn't really have a negative stigma behind it, but the episodic release of like a game being brought out one chapter at a time over several months, where you don't have the full game yet, you can't even review it, like you said. I don't think anyone really expected that from Bloodstained. If they did, then they must not know. No, it's not that kind of game. It wouldn't really.
Well, you would be surprised. There are always people out there, and even some people that, in their defense, aren't aware really of like the content of Bloodstained and what really makes it what it is. Even internally at 505, maybe other offices that chime in and be like, oh, well, if this is the problem, just make it episodic or whatever, make it staggered or this or that. And then I would come in, Carlos, my producer, would come in, other people that were in the know would come in and be like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Right, because you expect to have the full castle experience before you as you're going into it. Like if it was locked behind certain pieces that you wouldn't have until later, it wouldn't feel like like actual castle you were wandering through. It would be like a piece by piece. It would work for a level based game, but certainly not for Bloodstained.
And actually, I will say something else to kind of help people understand what our guiding philosophy, what my guiding philosophy is like. Whether or not we include something as DLC or have it at launch, I've seen a lot of people expect things like high prices for certain pieces of DLC and some things to come straight as DLC. And all I can say is, at this point, without showing my hand for future announcements, is that I have a big belief in getting players to buy your game because of the game as a core experience, and then growing your fan base because they want to play it and because of all the added value they're getting. And I'm a huge in staying away from nickel and diming players, because I've seen it happen statistically, like mathematically in the stats that you have, and also from, like, I don't want to sound, pedantic, but also from like a moralistic value and like what is right versus what isn't right. It's never works. Never. I've never seen it work. I've only seen it work for certain companies that, for obvious reasons I won't name. And even when it does work, it's got a very limited expiration date on it. It's for a while, and then all of a sudden players get tired of it, or they realize that you're nickel and diming them, and they drop you like you're a hot potato. So no matter how you look at it, we're focused on giving players what they want and building a fan base because we deserve it. And I know that sounds like, yeah, okay, sure. Like, what's the goal? To make a successful game, make a good game. Yeah, okay, thanks. It sounds obvious, but especially when it comes to the business considerations, even at the best publishers, you would be surprised how many people don't understand that. So I just think it's important to throw it out.
I like it when the publishers have this mindset. It's a very good sign, people. I like what Bloodleak says on the Twitch chat about, I think we need wall tacos next time after we're tired of wall mac. I would be good with wall tacos. Who doesn't like tacos?
I would even go so far, it may be, a bit repetition. Where's my wall lasagna?
Wall lasagna. Oh, you want to keep it in the Italian range, I see.
I mean, I'm just saying, if we're starting off Mac and, we got to progress exponentially, right? Get that bigger HP boost. Wall mac is fine, but then wall lasagna's got that meat in there, so it's technically also wall meat. So, best of both worlds.
Aren't you like natively Italian, Roberto?
That's not important. That's not.
He's angelic. He's a celestial being.
Oh right, he's an angel. Oh right, gotcha.
Yes. We don't have, or we do, but we.
Well, that Taco Tuesday, I don't like the way the meat's just kind of at the rear end of that taco. So we're not using that one, Lestroth, but thank you.
Oh, that's kind of gross.
Oh, God.
Oh, man. That's, yeah.
But speaking of DLC and what the fans want and all that, and going back to Goofball, an old idea I considered for all that is, he's, the armor guy won the poll for the familiars, and so that's the promise that IGA made, and he has to deliver that character as a familiar in the game, as opposed to the fairy and Goofball and the Reaper. But say, for instance, Goofball was a familiar DLC, and you could pay for him after the fact, and that would be separate from the familiar that was promised to be included in the game. So if that was possible, I think that would work out pretty well, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, man. So I am going to abstain from answering on this, just because if I did, I would have a very tough time on holding back things that I'm not supposed to talk about yet. So I will just say that sounds like an interesting observation, and to look forward to future announcements.
I'm just talking out loud, so don't mind me. Thanks.
Yeah. Brainiac's right. I will not rest until I get my goofball. I'll have to mod him in there myself. Someone was asking about mods earlier, and I gotta say, man, on the last podcast, Angel, you really got my hopes up for mods. I really hope that we see some things that break our expectations, as long as it's not in a bad way, because we have good expectations too, you know? Like the last demo was kind of moddable.
All I can say, unfortunately, things haven't changed as far as what I can say at this point. All I can say is that I am always working very hard for all of you and all of us current and future Bloodstained fans, whether that's on the weekend or at night or on my time off. Just look forward to things to come.
I don't know if you happened to see Mike Tendo's video that he did of going and meeting Iga and everything, but he stopped by the Konami booth and kind of turned the camera around. The only thing they had up there was Yu-Gi-Oh cards, not a single video game. It was very sad.
Yeah, so it was actually kind of interesting. It's not my place to talk about because it's not my story, but actually no, there is one story that is my place. Well, so one of the Konami guys did come by our booth, and I was with my colleague. His name is Shant, cool guy, very nice, and it was a very interesting interaction because he came by, he was wearing a Konami shirt. We're like, oh, it's such a pleasure. We were absolutely. I told my guys all in advance. Even if you don't feel this way, you show anyone that comes from Konami the same respect and courtesy as I'm sure you would. And I didn't even need to tell them because they were all already on the same page as me. So we were super nice and, super kind of like, oh, try to be friendly. And you're from Konami. Great. Have you heard of the game? IGA-san? And I don't know who he was. I don't know his name or anything like that. But he just kind of looked at us and gave us that like anime grundly nod acknowledgement and then walked away. And my colleague and I just looked at us like, what the hell just happened? I don't even. So yeah, that was that was interesting.
And that's when he slipped. So that's when he slipped the 12-year-old $5 bill and said, "Run by this booth and say Mighty Number 9."
I think so. And for anyone that doesn't know what he's talking about, before the podcast started, basically I told the story of this little kid that walked slowly towards our booth, and then as he came approaching me, started running by and yelled, "Don't be Mighty Number 9." And I was just left with this face of like, what the hell just happened? But yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience. And as far as what's not my place to talk about, I know that Iga actually went over there and was with Mana and went to see some of their old colleagues there, or some of Iga's old colleagues. And as far as what he told me, he said it was totally fine and they were all friendly and nice. So I'm sure that our experience, my colleagues and I, was just because that person probably expected the worst from us and didn't know us and thought that we were maybe like actually making fun of him or something, but be nice or whatever. Who knows?
So do you think that it would be bad for Bloodstained if Konami was like, hey, you should check out Bloodstained, everybody, on like all of their social media and stuff, and actually just push Iga upwards instead of being Konami?
You think that would happen?
No, I don't. But do you think that it would hurt Bloodstained, or would it help? Would it help Iga out?
Yeah, I could just like he said, I could never envision that happening just with the current climate that there is, if you want to call it that. But I don't think it could possibly ever hurt Bloodstained. In fact, I think it would only help both Bloodstained and especially help Konami. Without talking about politics that I probably shouldn't or don't want to talk about, we all are aware of some of the fan reception or image, as far as the brand is concerned, that Konami has and has garnered recently. And without going into, who did what or who deserves what, honestly, people love Bloodstained. people love Igarashi, and seeing a former publisher support a past employee, I think could only garner them positive reception and positive support. So, like I said, I don't think that would ever happen, but if it did, I can only see it helping both Bloodstained as far as news, because people, of course, being people and wanting to gossip, would be like, "Oh my God, Konami is talking about Bloodstained." Blah, blah. And on the other side, people would see that Konami has, a soft spot in their heart, so to speak, and wants to support employees that are no longer with them. But yeah, I don't think it ever.
That would be like Konami coming out and saying, "Hey guys, check out this game called Death Stranding by Hideo Kojima." That would be very surprising.
No, because what they did to Kojima was a bit more harsh. They never outwardly just straight up attacked IGA and told him not to go to an award ceremony or something like that.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's actually really different, just because everyone is very aware, very public, falling out that Konami and Kojima had. As far as when it comes to IGA, as far as I'm aware, maybe I'm just out of the loop or don't know, but as far as I'm aware, there wasn't any sort of even remotely comparable attitude or events when it came to IGA. I don't know, obviously, internal, attitudes at Konami when IGA left, but as far as I know, it was all just standard and amicable and professional, with any kind of like, okay, from now on, Igarashi-san's he's scrubbed from the records and he never existed sort of thing, like they did with.
Yeah, that's true. And speaking of that, so there was a company called First for Figures is doing an a la carte figure for Castlevania, and IGA actually went by that booth and had a picture taken with those guys. So he wasn't banned from at least doing that, because they only have the license for it. But the a la carte statue looks really nice, and I think IGA actually had some input into that a long time ago, possibly. So anybody that's a big a la carte fan, you can check that out. And even if it's not directly Konami, it's cool to see them approve and have at least some movement forward with well done statues and figures, and the vinyl releases of those Castlevania soundtracks we've seen recently. They're at least allowing the licenses to flourish and let the fans buy cool stuff.
And honestly, I hope I don't trigger anyone's ire, because I know, like I mentioned, how many people have negative sentiment towards Konami right now, but Konami has some amazing IPs, and they've brought us some of the world's most enthralling game experiences, whether it's less serious, more arcade games like Gradius, or whether it's games like Metal Gear and even, of course, Castlevania. So I think while everything that's happened recently has been unfortunate, and it's been unfortunate, especially because it's public, I'm really looking forward to and hoping that Konami and the fans and the developers can kind of, move forward somehow and establish a future somehow, because there are a lot of IPs there that I hope to see again in some capacity, whether it's Gradius or games. And there's still employees there, and there's still developers and creators there that, on the unfortunate end of a situation that they definitely didn't contribute to or didn't create. So that's I hope it doesn't sound too like let's all be friends, but that's my sentiment. I hope that they can reclaim their previous glory and goodwill with the community, and that things like that can become a footnote of the past. The bad things, I mean, not the good.
Well, that should be the goal.
It would take too much, I think, for them to be redeemed. Truthfully, they'd have to treat their employees differently and deliver a lot to their fans. And they're not even publicly traded on our stock markets anymore. They just don't care about us. But hell good for you.
Definitely a lot of
the Eagles did get back together. you know, the Eagles got back together, anything could happen. So as far as the podcast goes, we're at 2 hours now. I think this is a good place to cut it off. However, that doesn't mean that your interaction with the community needs to stop. We have a very active Discord. While I'm looking at it right now, we have an insane amount of people just listening here live. All of you can go to the other chat channels. I'm sure Angel, you know, he's often with us in Discord. I don't know how much time he has left with us tonight, but you may all get together and talk and be part of the community. Our Discord's a great way to do that. Our forums are a much more organized way to do that, and there's always fun things going on there. Keep your eye out for special October Halloween-related things on the forums. Hopefully I'll be able to do more if I have the time. But it's always great seeing everybody on all the various different sites in the Igaverse, and it's awesome to be able to talk with everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a wrap tonight, but thank you once again, everybody. Angel, Ben, Purify, Enkeria, everybody who's just contributing great questions and just being part of this. It's a great community, and I'm just honored to be part of it. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, and thank you, everyone else. And don't forget to join us on Facebook. I know that's a shameless plug, but you'd be surprised how many people still don't do that and then complain about missing announcements.
Yep. All right. Hey, Track's stuck in the whole night. All right. Well, until next time, see you on the forums, and good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. See ya.